What's up, guys? Welcome to, the 5th, 6th, something podcast. It should have been the 6th, but we had some technical difficulties and the entire 5th podcast was ruined. So here we are with the 5/6 podcast. I don't know what you want to call it, but thank you guys so much for tuning in, whether it be via YouTube, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever else you may find this that I'm not aware of. I do appreciate you stopping on by. I'm here with my buddy Logan, and we're ready to talk some MLB, NFL, and Overwatch League. What's up, Logan?
How's it going, buddy? I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited.
Yeah, so we are actually a day late. Normally we would have recorded on Wednesday and posted on Thursday, but Logan went ahead and got the Rona. So
yeah,
we're blaming the Rona.
I've had a sickness problem, and I actually have COVID, and
I forgot.
I was on early for the podcast. Jason got on a little later. And which is fine. We normally record later, but since I have all this free time because I'm stuck in my house, I was just on earlier. I reset my PC, and then I fell asleep at like 8:45, and then didn't wake up till like 7 the next morning. And I woke up to like 9 texts from Jason saying, "Logan, where are you?"
The Rona gotcha.
And Jason's mic died last week. So
oh my god, it was painful. I sounded like a choppy. I don't even know how to explain it. It was bad. It was unusable.
All hour 45 was unusable.
Yeah, it was unusable. Like I actually went to try and clip up. I tried to take the time to clip up just the parts of Logan talking, and I kept talking while you were talking, and then it would mess up everything you said. I was like, dang it.
It's all right.
But all right, so here we are. Podcast 5/6.
5.
Whatever. MLB time. So big news in the major leagues. The non-tenured contracts came out, and there's some pretty decent names on there. I believe I went through and I was reading it, and it's like 5 or 6 people that were first-round top 10 draft picks at some point are non-tenured this year, including names like Kyle Schwarber, Eddie Rosario, Archie Bradley, some few others as well. But I mean, there's some decent players now available, and I think it's going to make things a little interesting moving forward here. The other major things before we dig into that too deep, Mike Minor and Michael A. Taylor signed with the Royals, Trevor May with the Mets, and Jose Iglesias was traded to the Angels. So those are all of our recent moves. I think I kind of want to start with Schwarber. I mean, we kind of talked about the Cubs in the past podcast, and now Schwarber has been non-tenured and he's a free agent. Now, I get that they could still sign him technically, but I do see Schwarber having some quite a few suitors, honestly. I think that'd be interesting. I actually was thinking about it, and I actually like Kyle Schwarber as someone for the Marlins to go after. The Marlins have a lot of right-handed hitters, but they don't have very many power-hitting lefties. And so I think he could really slot into that team pretty nicely, actually. But, I mean, that was just kind of... there's some other players I'm interested in. As a Marlins fan, Archie Bradley, he fills that bullpen role that I said that I would like to have. Carlos Rondon is an interesting one to me, a very potentially good pitcher who's been plagued with injuries, and I'd like to see him go after Ryan Stanek, who was with the Marlins last year and had a pretty good year. Wouldn't mind bringing him back. Good old Cardinal boy is a non-tenured Jose Martinez back on the free agents.
And Greg Garcia.
Yeah. So, I mean, what are you interested in? What do you think?
So I have some names too that you didn't mention. There were a lot of other guys.
There's lots of guys.
Because there's a lot of big names, because these middle contract guys, like everyone has talked about, including us, a lot of these middle contract guys are going to be the ones that bite the bullet because of the COVID losses. I don't know if you saw, but the Phillies came out and said they lost $200 million.
Right.
And then that was quickly proven a lie. And the fact that someone just went through, not the Phillies, but a couple other teams over the last couple of years, and the Braves in 2018, 2019, and 2020 have a stock increase of 16% and have profited $100 million total. So there's no way that Philly lost $200 million and the Braves gained $100, along with the other two teams also profited during the study. So basically, the Phillies just lied, and so it's really weird to see all these contracts go the way they are. But Adam Duvall, who hit 16 bombs, big thick Adam Duvall for the Braves. Greg Garcia is that one of the best pinch hitter when it comes to average. You know, it's kind of what he's built for, right? A middle infielder, old guy to come off the bench and get a pinch hit late in games for a veteran team. It's kind of what he's built for, right? Trevor Williams for Pittsburgh, which is a guy that people are not talking enough about because I think Trevor Williams is a stud. ERA was a little high, but man, when he was on
season though, I think some of these
he was on, he was as good as anybody when you watched him. He pitched against Cardinals a couple times, and watching him's good. Schwarber, Jose Martinez 0 for 21 as a Cub when he got traded from Tampa to Chicago, went 0 for 21. Albert Almora is another one of those guys in the top 10.
I saw him as well.
David Dahl, who had a couple good years in Colorado, who a lot of people in St. Louis have been talking about. In the biggest name, in my opinion, besides Schwarber, this guy's the better player. One of my dogs started growling. I don't know if you heard that.
It was really dramatic.
Yeah,
and the bigger player was
Eddie Rosario.
Love it.
13 homers, 42 RBIs.
Another guy that I listed that I wouldn't be mad if the Marlins.
On base, 20 points higher, average 16
big
points
part
lower.
of that Twins bomb squad.
Yeah.
Big part of that.
I'm a big fan of pretty much anybody on these guys on the offensive side because if I'm the Cardinals, right, Eddie Rosario had 13 homers and 42 RBIs and hit 257, I believe. That would have put him 6 more homers than the Cardinal leader at 7, 16 more RBIs than the Cardinal leader at 26, and his batting average would have been the second highest on the team from anyone currently signed. So Goldie, Wong, and Yachty all would have had higher averages than Eddie, but 2 of those guys right now are not Cardinals. Only Goldie is. So he would literally walk in and be our second best offensive player. If the Cardinals want to do anything, which I'm still a big fan on them doing nothing and then waiting and going hopefully massive, and then they won't do anything next year, but give themselves the opportunity to go massive when all those contracts free up. So I don't know. It's exciting because the Cardinals have the space to try to get anybody who has more homers than Brad Miller, who had 7, more RBIs than our second baseman / third baseman, Tommy Edman, who hit second. And he hit second behind Dexter Fowler. So it wasn't even Goldie who hits third or, someone who hits fourth. And our top batting average is 250. I mean, they're just, I don't know. Cardinals offense sucks.
I think the move for the Cardinals, though, sign Kyle Schwarber. You got to get the Cubs.
That's a problem, though. There has been no confirmation. There has been no confirmation of a DH.
I don't care.
Well,
I'm doing it just to stick it to the Cubs here. That's what I'm doing.
But the Cubs don't care.
I'm pulling a Jason Hayward here, and I'm sticking it to him with Kyle Schwarber.
Jason Hayward hit 29 homers and hit 300 as a Cardinal or something like that.
Schwarber
is not good.
Has had years, though, that was an absolute stud. I'm the Cardinals. I'm buying low on him and sticking it to the Cubs. That's what
he's going to sign a 1-year deal in Baltimore and go hit 40 homers in the AL East and then sign a nice contract somewhere.
I could see him signing with the Yankees as well.
He won't sign as Yankees. The Yankees don't have any place to put him.
They can put him wherever. Their whole team's been dead every year.
Yeah, but they can but they don't need a guy that bad, in my opinion. And the DH is the big problem for Kyle Schwarber because right now his teams are limited to really 15 teams. He's one of the worst outfielders in the MLB. And he can't play any other position besides left field. And so he's really limited right now, in my opinion, to 15 teams because the NL and the MLB hasn't decided if the NL is going to go to the DH, which in my opinion is stupid.
They need to
that
make
we're
that
into December.
Yes.
And we have guys like Kyle Schwarber and Jose Martinez are both 15-team guys now instead of 30-team guys. So, I mean, they really got to figure that out.
I agree. The thing that is a little depressing when I think about these names that are on the free agency, now it could be a little, I don't know, behind the curtain, but Derek Jeter did say, he came out and said that the Marlins were really looking to get their young players a lot of major league at bats, which to me kind of implies that they're not going to sign anybody to play any over any of them. So then that goes back to what I said I really wanted this offseason to be, which is sign those bullpen guys so your young pitchers don't feel like they have to throw so deep into games. Let them kind of figure themselves out in the first 5-6 innings, and then let them get out of there so you can use them longer into the season so you have a chance, because they are the only chance the Marlins have at being good this year is if they can pitch from game 1 to game 160 whatever.
I'm a big fan.
Or from 1 to 60 depending on how long the season actually lasts. We'll see.
I'm a big fan of Derek Jeter right now. So
here is
I think if you're a Marlins fan, you kind of have to be. All he did was get rid of anybody that was any good and tank a couple of years, and then all of a sudden progress pretty quickly. The Marlins did make a move, though. They made 2 moves.
They made minor moves.
They DFA'd Jose Urena,
they did.
And they traded for Adam Simber. So,
which I saw a statistic on Twitter, and I don't remember exactly what it was, but it was basically that Mr. Adam against the teams in the NL East has like a 6 ERA. so they traded for somebody who historically has been terrible against all the teams they play against.
Yeah, he's got
obviously ERA. That means nothing because he was not in their division really. So
he's got a 4 ERA.
So it is what it is.
And he's a pitcher for the Cleveland Indians.
Bullpen guys, you never truly know what you're going to get out of them. I
just trust any bullpen guy coming out of Cleveland.
I do think the Trevor May signing or the Trevor May trade thing was an interesting
signing.
It was a signing, yeah, that's right. I thought that was an interesting one because it kind of, to me, felt a little different than what we thought with the offseason, because I kind of felt like they gave him a good amount of money.
Well, it's the Mets. You can't gauge anybody off of Cohen. Cohen said.
But I think what's interesting about it is the teams that are making moves. I mean, even like the Braves, they went out and signed, Drew Smyly, who you didn't really think was. Well, and so it seems like, and I saw this on MLB. Basically, they said that they think that some of these teams have like, a grid with a formula, basically, and they're trying to find the exact guy that fits into the slot they need, and they're going to go out and they're going to pay for that guy in this offseason. But then, like, these right-handed relievers that are all, 1 of 50, that are all basically the same guy, those are going to be the guys sitting there saying, man, why am I not getting that kind of money? But really, it's because you're exactly the same as the next 25 guys, where Trevor May is a guy that, maybe they needed a guy who throws hard and strikes people out. So they went and got the one that they
Trevor
thought
May, his stats,
streamer, video gamer, huge head, Trevor May.
Trevor May's stats also showed incredible improvement in ball rotation on 2 pitches, and his stats improved across the board.
Well, he went from a 93 mile an hour fastball to getting Tommy John, and now he's throwing upper 98, 99 mile an hour pitches.
He's striking out guys like 13 guys per 9 or something like last year. So
plays for
Trevor May is a guy who earned that money by showing improvement over the course.
I agree. Trevor May, I think, was a guy that was actually dangerously close to just not being a major league player anymore. I think that he was a guy that had a bunch of hype and then like never was amounting to anything, got Tommy John, and then all of a sudden he became a guy that's actually worth looking at. I mean, you looked at a guy that you're kind of thinking, he just never lived up to it. Another one of these major leaguers moving on. And now all of a sudden he's getting signed. I mean, not as anything huge, but I mean, we're talking about it. So it's obviously big enough. So
well, he was probably one of those guys that really studied ball rotation after his Tommy John, because he had to relearn how to throw anyway.
I am interested in seeing
so he probably just went
like
into
that. When play, I mean, I think Trevor Bauer's really at the front of that, really studying the science behind your pitching.
And do you not see Trevor Bauer's ball rotations? He's in the top percentage on all of his.
I think the
pitches.
Person that a lot of people forget about that was kind of that, that in my mind, the first person I can think of when I actually think about studying the science of you is Tim Lincecum. He was a guy that was 5'10" and pitching out of his mind. And it was because they scientifically looked at what can we do with your motion to produce the absolute amount of power out of you. And he became a great pitcher, obviously for a short period of time, but he was the best pitcher in Major League Baseball for that period of time. He was nasty. He was lights out. And it's interesting to see.
Right?
It's interesting to see how Major League Baseball changes from a pitching aspect as pitchers learn more about the science behind what they do. I think it's going to be really cool to see how that changes and develops over the years.
Yeah, because batting has had these advanced stats for a while, but now pitchers. Yeah,
you kind of thought pitching was always just kind of natural. Like you either had it or you didn't. Like you either had it or
threw 15 different pitches and narrowed it down to 4, and there you go.
And you either threw 100 or you didn't.
Yeah, and then now it's like okay, you throw 93. Okay, this entire offseason, we're going to work on this specific thing, and you come back throwing 97, and you're like, wait, what just happened?
Well, and it's truthfully like if you think back to like a guy like Nolan Ryan, he was one of the first pitchers in baseball to ever like work out. He was one of the first pitchers to ever like physically get into shape to be a pitcher. It was always just before that, like pitchers were, you naturally threw hard. You naturally were a good pitcher. And Nolan Ryan said, well, why don't I take that to the top next notch? And so that's where it's interesting is, Nolan Ryan's not really that old of a name. And that's really the first kind of advancement in pitchers actually doing something other than just going out there and throwing. So it's like, I think pitching is definitely playing some catch up. As far as also, those kind of things.
Highly recommend to anybody who's interested in like pitching and trying to see a pitcher improve into watching Momentum and Trevor Bauer. YouTube channel is called Momentum. Trevor Bauer posts these things like weekly. He posted pretty much weekly, I believe, during the MLB season or twice a week of the COVID season and how he and his team were going about things and how they were winning. And it's all live reactions. It was really cool. And then now he's doing this off-season stuff, and he's still showing himself doing his workouts, doing these weighted balls, and how he does just so much extra stuff that we would never normally see. And then how he does everything that he does with his right hand, with like his weighted balls and stuff, with his left hand to try to help create equilibrium, because that's what he believes in creating this equilibrium to where he's not over-rotating or stuff like that. So just watching these guys and the extra stuff that people never see. We all see the bullpens and stuff, but the actual things that don't require him pitching, his workouts, his conditioning. Trevor Bauer looks like he's got a gut, right? But the amount of work this guy puts in is just absolutely insane.
And I think that's the part that a lot of people, everyone thinks that like, oh, they just play a game. Like these people live this game. Everything they do is to improve who they are as an athlete, or someone else is going to do it and take their spot.
100%.
I mean, if you are not putting in every amount of time you can into getting better, someone's going to take your job. And that's where, like a guy like LeBron James and Tom Brady, those people are insane because they were kind of the first people to speak out about how much this is their life. And I heard a report one time that basically said that like they had never some reporter had said that like he had never seen Tom Brady basically without a football. He said that Tom Brady, even on vacation, goes out on the beach and is throwing passes. It's like there is no real time off for them. They're always working on their craft, or someone else is going to.
Russell Wilson and DK went to the Bahamas or something over in the off season, and all of a sudden, Wilson goes there and goes.
I wish I would have had that report before the fantasy draft.
And all of a sudden, Wilson he asks, and he's like, "Hey, did you bring?" He goes, "Did you bring your gloves?" He goes, "Gloves, dude." He goes, "I brought my pads, gloves, and helmet. You got a ball?" And Wilson's like, "I got a ball." And then they wouldn't play catch on a beach and stuff like that.
Right.
I mean,
it's their
life. Just like you said, you would have loved to hear that to draft friggin' DK in fantasy. But
I drafted Lockett like 5 picks before DK.
But like, exactly that's what you're saying. Like, even when they're on vacation, you have one of the best quarterbacks and best receivers in the NFL working with each other in the offseason on vacation to improve. LeBron won the NBA Finals after like a historic 3-1 comeback that had never been done before against what some people were saying was the greatest basketball team of all time. And then the next day, he's posting on his Instagram a video of him rapping to a song in a gym while working out. It's like
Right.
the guy didn't even take a day off after winning the NBA Finals. Those guys are built different. They've spent millions of dollars on recovery.
And that's why not only are they're not only the absolute best at their sports, but they can play for so long because they've spent so much time and so much money becoming this superior athlete. They've taken their natural genetics and said, I'm going to do everything I can to get every ounce of talent out of this body.
LeBron's turning 36. I know Brady's 43. LeBron's turning 36 this month. He's about to enter year 18 of his NBA career and was just won another NBA Finals, winning his 4th NBA Finals MVP, and he just finished 2nd in the MVP for his 6th or 7th time at that age. Brady's in the same thing where he's been an NFL player for 20-something years and
a guy that wasn't supposed to be anything.
And now he's, 2nd in yards. That's the difference between Brady and LeBron, though. Right. Tom Brady was 6th round pick, no one's supposed to be anything, and LeBron James was considered a Hall of Fame or bust player at 16.
Yeah,
had the highest.
He's like the Bryce Harper of basketball.
He's bigger than Bryce Harper.
Well, I'm saying, Bryce Harper though was like when he was 16, he's being drafted. He's going to be the greatest player to ever play baseball.
I don't think there's anybody who's ever no downside to Bryce Harper because Bryce Harper was that to baseball. I don't think anybody's ever been what was expected of LeBron when he was 16 years old in any of the 4 major sports in North America. Not saying soccer. I don't know about soccer. I know Freddie Adu was signed at 14 to a European soccer contract, but I think LeBron James, that dude was literally 16 years old, and he's he's on national television weekly playing basketball for his high school. It was nuts. But so I just have a couple things to say about baseball. I know we're kind of getting off random topics. Yeah. So I got as a Cardinal, so I had mentioned the Marlins. They designated Jose Urena and blah, blah, blah. The Reds non-tendered Archie Bradley and Brian Goodwin. The reason why I want to mention this is because they just traded during the offseason of last year. So they wound up only getting 2 months out of these guys. They traded 2 top 15 draft picks. So 1 for one guy, 1 for the other, plus there was another player thrown in. Yeah. For Goodwin, for Bradley, I think. And then they non-tender him. You lost 2 top 15 of the Reds prospects, not overall prospects, but Reds. But those are still guys that you count on to be in the league soon for guys that you got 2 months out of and went under 500 and scored 0 runs in the postseason. So that's kind of weird. Just kind of bad by the Reds, I guess. I know I'm not saying every team does everything perfectly, but it just sucks for the Reds that.
Yeah, no, I heard that same thing too, and it just it's like,
they gave
why did you not, somewhat put some?
Seems like they're just giving up way too soon. It looks like they went all in and then they're giving up really soon.
Well, and I do think that some of
it. There's a rumor they're going to sign in Drelton Simmons, and you're like, wait, what's going on? I thought some people were saying they're going to trade Castellanos or whatever, and let Moustakas go, and they're letting Archie Bradley and Brian Goodwin go, but now you're signing Simmons. You're going to let Bauer go. It's just and then Sonny Gray's on the trade block. It's like, what are you doing?
Those teams always confuse me. I can't understand those teams that you're not there. You're not to the point that you're good enough.
Are you going to try to sign
retooling? It's like the Angels. You're never actually good enough, but for some reason you just keep pumping more people.
There's a difference, though. The Angels spend money and try to be good, and they just suck at it. The Reds seem like what they're doing is they're going to let Moose go. They're going to trade Sonny Gray. They're going to let Bauer go. Castellanos, whatever he's doing. And then they're going to try to fake their fan base and go, oh, no, we're trying hard to win, guys. We're going to sign a guy who's never been on a winning team in his life, and in Drelton Simmons. Because the Braves were never good until he left, and then he was never, and then they were never good in Anaheim either. So we're gonna fake you guys out like we're trying to. If you're trying to win, you'd re-sign Moose and Castellanos, and keep Sonny Gray, and then try to sign another hitter. It just seems like it was weird. And then also, I found it weird the Angels, who are letting Simmons go get Jose Iglesias. What are you trying to do there? Are you he's not your shortstop on a World Series championship team unless everyone else can hit, and the rest of that team can't hit. So I'm really confused what you're trying to like. Is he supposed to be your starting shortstop? I'm confused. So
yeah,
that move didn't make any sense to me either. If he's supposed to be their starter, it's like if I'm the Angels and that guy's supposed to be my starter, I ain't too happy about it. And because they're supposed to be trying to be good, right? They got a stud third baseman. They got the best player in the world in center. They're about to lose Pools.
I don't know, man.
So anyways,
I don't know, man. It is.
I just wanted to bring up the Reds and the fact that they traded that stuff, signed all those guys. It's just a weird thing they're doing. In bad Cardinal news, Colton Wong looks like apparently he's for sure a Blue Jay.
I could see that.
I mean, Toronto signs all the ex-Cardinals, so that makes perfect sense. And
Toronto was playing all kinds of weird infield positions last year, trying to fit everybody in. So I think having a true second baseman will be
and the best defensive second baseman in baseball. Like it's going to make everyone else better. Right. That's just what having a guy like that does. He's the best at turning a double play on anyone I've ever seen in my life at second, as like coming from the left side. Like he is so fast, it's unbelievable. So I think it's a good signing by Toronto, depending on the money. I think anyone who signs Colton Wong getting a good bang for their buck, because I don't think he's going to cost that much. He's going to hit around 250, and he's going to be one of the best defensive players in the world. He's going to be the best in his position for the next couple of years at least anyway. So I think anyone who signs Colton Wong makes sense. The Cardinals are trying to free up to spend a lot of money at third, spend a lot of money at third base, and they're going to put Tommy Edman at second. And then Yachty, another Cardinal Yachty, who has apparently now heard from 6 teams. The Yankees, Mets, Braves, Padres, Angels, and Cardinals.
So it is interesting because some of those teams are the ones that have been talked about with JT Realmuto, and I have heard rumors that teams are already moving on from him, which makes me wonder if the asking price is way too high.
I think Realmuto is probably asking like $80 million too high.
So it's probably way too high. So the question mark is if somebody signs Yachty instead of the Cardinals, what's that? I mean, that's going to be.
I think there are 2 teams that should go for Yachty, and I think those teams. If it's not the Cardinals.
Right.
And I think that's San Diego and Atlanta. I think both of those teams, especially, I think Atlanta is the perfect place for Yadier Molina. As a Cardinal fan, besides St. Louis, obviously, I think Atlanta's trying to win a World Series. And having a guy like Yachty help with a bullpen, even if he's starting every day or what they're trying to do with him, but having him help with a bullpen and some of that pitching staff, everyone knows, and this is from a cocky Cardinal fan, that Yachty's one of the smartest guys in baseball at this point. You're not a catcher for 17 years and not being one of the smartest guys in baseball, right? Because catchers are smart. So having a guy like Yachty on a team with Atlanta that has some veterans, but also a lot of young pitching, I think would be good. And having a guy like Yachty on a very young team overall, like San Diego, to say, this is how you win, and you guys are going to win, and I'm just going to show you kind of how to handle yourself while winning. I think would be good for them as well.
Yachty is always
Yachty's going to help any team he goes to.
It's
no
also
matter what.
interesting because both the teams you mentioned also have a little bit of that Yachty swag to them. That Yachty would fit right in as far as like personality, because like Yachty's got a little bit of that fire, and both those teams got a little bit of fire, a little bit of swag.
Yachty's known for around every other fan base in baseball as being loud and annoying.
Right.
So
I could definitely,
especially with Atlanta and
I think
San
that would
Diego,
be interesting. And I think when you said Atlanta too, it made me think back to when Atlanta first kind of started turning it around, and they brought back Brian McCann, like kind of at the end of that.
Well, that's who your catcher was last year, right? McCann, and then
they had all kinds of people.
but it was mostly McCann. And now McCann and Yachty are both free agents, and a lot of those same teams are rumored with McCann as well, but Yachty is considered better.
It was just interesting that when Brian McCann had came back, it was kind of that veteran, knew how to win. Like that was the mentality that they wanted him to bring. And I think that Yachty does bring that to another level. Like Yachty said, another level than that, which is what
I think both Atlanta and San Diego, as a biased Cardinals fan, should go hard on Yachty and Wainwright and just say, fuck it, let's do this. And go for them both, because Wainwright's going to be cheap with big incentives. I think incentive-laden deals are always smart for the team. Like, pay him not that much, and if he pitches bad, I owe you nothing. But if you win a Cy Young, I pay you $6-7 million. Cool. That's the cheapest Cy Young I'm ever gonna pay.
I think we absolutely. I
I
see baseball trending in that direction for anyone past the age of like 32. I think that's the direction it's going to go. Is, you know what? Hey, if you think you can still play, this is how much money you're going to earn then. But if you can't, I don't want to do it.
That's what Waino did. Waino was out of baseball. He had 3 bad years in a row, and they were bad years.
And everybody was like, dude,
and then
I feel
the Cardinals
bad for you to
signed
get out
him
of
for $1 million with $6 million of incentives. He came out and had the best year he had since like 2014 and 2019. And all of a sudden he made $4 million because he made $3 million of incentives because of his innings pitched and ERA being in certain spots. And then he did the exact same thing this year when it came to COVID, where he was, instead of being 1-4, he signed for 2 and made an extra 3 in incentives, which means he only turned into 1.5 or whatever, or 1.2 because of the COVID changes. But he made money because he pitched well. Mm-hmm. And I think he's going to do it again. And I think anybody who signs Yachty, whether it's the Cardinals or the Yankees or the Mets, Angels, Braves, Padres, anybody should just sign them both. And I think you couldn't be, I mean, Yachty's going to ask for a lot of money, so I'll give them the Yachty thing. But if you're going to sign Yachty, you might as well just sign Wainwright and go, these two know each other better than anybody else. They're going to be the best people to lead the clubhouse, but they also both like to have fun. It just makes sense. The one thing that's sad to me in Atlanta is Freddie Freeman and Brian McCann are like besties.
Mm-hmm.
Like when people hit walk-off base hits in Atlanta, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but it's really funny to watch Freeman and McCann because let's say Acuna hits a walk-off home run.
Right. Everyone
dogpiles at the home plate, but Freddie Freeman and Brian McCann are dogpiling each other in like the corner. It's hilarious. They call themselves the old guys, and they just run around and they hug each other when neither of them had anything to do with anything. It's a really funny thing. It really is. It's like it's the whole team's piling right here, and then like 3 feet next to them are McCann and Freeman hugging it out, jumping. And like the last time someone brought like a bubblegum container of water and dumped the water on them like it was the Gatorade thing. Right. Because it's hilarious what the Braves do. I don't know. I'm a big fan. I mean, I had the Braves lose in the World Series last year. That's my prediction. But,
so,
anyways, news on Yachty. Long story short, even though it's already been really long, anyone who signs these guys, good for them. I think they're going to be a big help. I want the Cardinals to take them both back because I want Yachty to retire a Cardinal. Just to have 18 years on one team is just so cool to do, even if it's not the right thing, because Andrew Knitzer's the right guy. And Wainwright's good too. So, I mean, until Wainwright always said he's going to pitch till he can't help anymore. And he was literally going to retire after 2018. And he had a sub-1 ERA in the month of September, and that convinced him to come back. And then 2019, he pitched well. In 2020, he pitched well.
So I'm going to dug into this a little bit here. I'm interested.
You kind of skipped pretty well.
I kind of shifted myself, so maybe that's why. Am I good now? Yeah. Okay. All right. So I was digging into this while you were talking about Wainwright.
Yep.
If I'm signing Wainwright this year, I'm signing him for the 4 ERA pitcher. Mm-hmm. Because the non-baseball card stats show that Wainwright was not much better than he's been since 2016. So I was looking at this. According to Baseball Reference, just glancing at this. Now, I'm not super big into all these extra numbers, but what it appears to me is that the Cardinals' tremendous defense this year is the reason that his ERA was so low this year. Because his home runs per 9 inning is almost identical to everything since 2016. His walks per 9 inning is slightly lower. His strikeouts per 9 inning is actually lower than 2018 and 2019.
Slightly lower. His walks are...
It's a 2.1. He was at a 3.4, so he dropped a walk per 9 inning.
Walk and a half, almost. That's...
So, but his hits per 9 inning has dropped almost 2.
Yeah.
And his fielder independent pitching stat, his fielder independent is still a 4.1, which is almost identical to every fielder independent ERA that he's had since 2016.
Yeah.
So outside of his fielders, his ERA has been almost exactly the same since 2016, which is when he started being bad. So just an interesting stat there.
I'm not. So this might show me being stubborn. I'm not the biggest, even though the Cardinals clearly have like the best defense in the MLB over the last like couple years. Not the best, but like top 5 over the last couple years since Mike Schill took over. I'm not the biggest believer in FIP. Personally, I'm still stuck. I mean, maybe I'm just an old stubborn man, even though I'm not old. I don't know. I still just like the how many runs do you give up? I don't care about how many you're supposed to give up. How many did you give up? And
I guess where I'm a little concerned is that his home runs per 9, his strikeouts are down, his home runs are about the same.
Yeah, home runs have been about the same. For
really, the only difference was, and I mean, he did drop that walk, but his whip or his walks per 9 inning was still. I mean, he had 2.7 in 2016 when he still had a 4.5 ERA. Yes. So that's still only I mean, that's about half a walk a game, and he still had that ERA. But his hits is the only thing.
Morton had an ERA of what, like 4.7, and just signed for $15 million.
I mean, there's something to be said for that. Don't get me wrong.
So, like, if we're
Charlie Morton's FIP is a 3.4. So, in other words, his defense hurt him this year. That he gave up more runs because of bad defense, according to FIP. That's what's his.
Once again, I'm not the biggest believer in FIP because doesn't that guy have the best center fielder in the MLB along with the best pick guy in the MLB at first?
But if everybody else sucks, I'm just saying, according to FIP, it's just an interesting idea. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's an interesting stat to look at outside of it.
Yeah, listen, this might be my old stubborn man here. He also had better years more recently than Wainwright as well. You know, like in 2019, he had a 3 ERA.
Well, in 2019, I mean, his strikeouts were about the same as what they've been. His strikeouts per 9 has been about the same as what he's been when he's had good seasons. His walks were about the same. His home runs were about the same. The only thing different was his hits went up almost 3 hits per 9 innings.
More than 3. That's nuts. And
which is where that FIP kind of plays into it a little bit.
Once again,
interesting that
I don't give a shit about what anyone. Wainwright's going to sign for like $3 million, and it's going to be a great $3 million.
Well, and that's the thing is, I think that Wainwright, the way he is, because he's going to sign with the Cardinals, I would assume he's always taking these Cardinal friendly.
Yachty are going to do the same thing. Well, that's what the rumor is they're going to be together. So
we will see.
These 6 teams apparently are also.
I mean, if that's the case, then that definitely makes the Braves an interesting landing spot because the Braves are kind of.
Look, the Braves had Wainwright, and John Smoltz said, "Don't trade Wainwright. He's the future of our team." Then they traded him, and then John Smoltz signed with the Cardinals.
Good old John Smoltz. Now he's on MLB Network.
He signed with the Cardinals for 3 months, and then they cut him.
Womp womp. We are moving on to the NFL here on the Lit Podcast Last Inning Touchdown. Here we go. NFL. We actually both had a pretty good week with the Pickem. I just did better.
Yeah, you had a God tier week, Mister. I picked all 14 favorites.
I won 13. You had 10. So
wait, you won 13 and 1?
I don't know. There were 16 games this week.
That's not. Oh, there was 16 games.
Yeah, I counted them. I'm pretty sure it was 16 games. So
because there were no buys. That's
right, and then you had 10. So I'm at 50, and you are at 46.
You went 13 and 3, and I went
10 and 6. So I think personally, the topic that I've been itching to talk about more than anything is this whole COVID situation. And now you're firsthand experiencing the COVID situation. I do want to state that I saw a report that the Broncos are now going to keep Blake Bortles away from their other quarterbacks so that if anything were to happen moving forward, they will still be able to fall back on Blake Bortles. So the conversation that we briefly discussed earlier when this was happening is personally how tremendously BS I think the NFL handled the Broncos situation regardless of whether they screwed up or not, because my thought is that anytime there's a massive breakout, somebody screwed up. It's hard to say that we're going to punish the Broncos and then the Ravens can play when they're ready. I just don't. Did you watch any of that Broncos game?
The Broncos game?
Yes.
No.
Okay, so we had my family's Thanksgiving on that Sunday. Because we had a bunch of different places to go. So my stepmom always does an awesome job of pushing it back so that way we don't feel rushed around. Since we don't have a large family, it's not that big of a deal. So we do it on a different day. So we did it on Sunday, and I watched a little bit of the Broncos game. I didn't watch a lot of it. The Broncos were running the Wildcat most of the game.
Yeah, and did you not notice what happened? They started with the quarterback, and then he went 2 for 9 with 2 picks, and then they ran the offense with a running. Then they ran the Wildcat throw.
But they didn't even start with the quarterback. First of all, by quarterback we mean practice squad wide receiver who played 3 games in his college career.
At quarterback.
He played the first 4 plays of the game were Philip Lindsay playing quarterback, and at first, it was kind of embarrassing because they actually got a first down on the first drive and they hadn't even had a quarterback on the field yet. And my first thought was, Philip Lindsay is the quarterback right now. How do you not stop them from running the ball? But, and then he finally comes into the game and it was pathetic. He was 1 for 9 with 2 picks. I mean, it's painful. And if I'm the NFL, so here's the deal. I get that you're trying to... the Broncos.
There was 90 total in this game, by the way. There was 91 yards passing and 3 picks, no touchdowns combined from Taysom Hill and Kendall Hinton.
Painful.
Yep.
This game was an embarrassment.
Fewest passing yards since 1984.
This game was embarrassing for the NFL.
Yes.
The NFL screwed up by making this game play as is. Because you put a product on the field that was not entertaining for anyone. And at the heart and soul of all professional sports, you are an entertainment industry, and you turned your back to it because they broke protocol or whatever they did. I don't care if you're going to tell me that the Ravens can push back their game 4 times. The Broncos could have waited until they had a quarterback to play.
No, they changed. The Broncos didn't just push back their game 3 times.
The Ravens.
They pushed back. Sorry, the Ravens. They didn't just push back their game 3 times from Thursday. No, it was 4 times. You're right, because it was Thursday to Monday, then Monday to Tuesday.
It was Thursday to Sunday,
to
Sunday to Monday, Monday to Tuesday, Tuesday to Wednesday.
Jesus. So they didn't just do that. They also pushed back the Steelers game next week to Monday, and for some reason, the Ravens get an extra day off and get to play on next Tuesday. And the Steelers, for some reason, just get a really short week because fuck the Steelers. They're 11-0, right? They can handle it. That's just so stupid.
Yeah, it's ridiculous that the way that was handled. I just don't understand. And honestly, I think the worst part about all of it is you did all of this pushing back because of it, and then you produced a terrible Ravens-Steelers game too. The game
isn't even possible. It's literally not even possible.
The game started, and I remember texting you saying the game's almost over, and I didn't even know it was on. It was at such a stupid time that I didn't even
3 o'clock on a Wednesday.
Yeah, I didn't even know the game was on. And when I finally looked, I was like, oh, because we were going to record that night. And I was thinking, we probably want to start after the Steelers game. So what time is it on? Thinking it would be on at 6, 7 o'clock. And it was 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was like, what? Well, I guess that won't be a problem. But yeah, I mean, it is frustrating because you ended up producing 2 terrible games. And I don't know. I get it. I mean, I've seen people say it the NFL said that if it's an outbreak, they'll make a decision. But if it's just COVID, it's next man up. And it's it just didn't feel that way.
I agree.
It just didn't. I mean, to me, if you don't have a quarterback on your roster, that's pretty much an outbreak.
the Broncos. One of their players said that the NFL made an example out of them because of they could prove that they got caught. But kind of what Jason's saying is, just because they didn't prove the Ravens got COVID, when there's a massive outbreak, clearly someone broke protocol.
I mean, they probably could have proved it. They just didn't want to.
Yeah, and it was just really easy to prove that the Broncos broke protocol. But I agree. When you got like 20 plus guys, technically they had what I was told, what I read, I wasn't told anything because I'm not famous, but what I read was
famous
they had 52 of a 53-man roster ready to go on Sunday. And just because most of those guys are practice squad guys, I don't care. You made the Broncos play without the most important position in North American sports. I mean, they literally played without a goalie if they were playing hockey. That's literally what you just made them do, right? I mean, that's what they did. They weren't even able to pull the emergency goalie out. They had to pull the emergency high school goalie out and put that guy in. And that's no shot at the Broncos guy.
It's more honestly, like it's honestly on your analogy.
Cheer on
your analogy. Your analogy was more like they pulled out the left defenseman who played street hockey goalie. That's more of what it was like because it was painful. It hurt. And
also, shout out to this Kendall Hinton, by the way. That guy was under more pressure than anybody in the NFL last week.
You know he wanted to perform.
Because you know how much pressure that guy had on him to just do anything, and he didn't play well. And you know what? Shout out for even having the balls to do it. Just to even say yes.
And he shouldn't have played well, honestly. It would have been embarrassing for the Saints if he played well. The Saints are one of the best defenses, in the league. And you're a 3-time college quarterback.
At a big time.
No reason you should have done well.
Claps for you, man. Just having the balls to even say yes is it's impressive because I know that. I mean, if I was even close to ever that athletic, I don't even know if I could say yes because I'd be so just in panic of like, you're asking me to play a position that I haven't played regularly since and he might have not even played that position since like middle school or early high school. I mean, he played it in college, but clearly not regularly. So shout out him for even just having the balls to say yes. So
I think the other thing I'm a little mad about with that game, I'm a little mad at the Saints too.
Saints are just like, oh yeah, let's do it.
Well, and given the circumstances, they look terrible too. I mean, you're literally playing a team without a quarterback. And like the first half of the game, the Saints looked just as bad as they did. I mean, it was painful. It's like, I just don't understand. I mean, I guess they had this mindset that that this was in the bag. The other team doesn't have a quarterback, but I mean, they looked almost as bad as the Broncos did for a while there in that game. It was rough, man. I don't know. I mean, it is what it is, but yeah, a very frustrating week. I guess I gotta applaud ESPN. Although I guess I'm glad it didn't work out, but I did look up the guy that was playing quarterback for the Broncos to see if they had him eligible at another position like they did Taysom Hill, just to see, but they did not. They had him eligible only a quarterback, so shout out to them for being up to date on the guy that sucked. But anywho, everybody's favorite segment of the NFL segment, everybody's favorite, said everyone I've ever asked.
Are you good?
Weekly Pickems. Weekly Pickems. So no Thursday night game, obviously. It's Thursday night as we're recording right here. So no Thursday night game this week. I've switched it up. We're gonna search the games on NFL.com instead of Bing. So the first game they have up, 8-3 matchup against the somehow 8-3 Browns and the 8-3 Titans. I have a feeling that this is the worst 8-3 matchup we've seen in quite some time in the NFL. Two 8-3 teams because the Browns are trash.
I was gonna say, are you saying because the Browns and the Titans are legit? Those guys just went out and kicked ass last week. A team who beat the Packers, the Titans just demolished.
I think the Browns deserve to be 8-3 as much as the Steelers deserve to be 11-0.
Well, they're in the same division. They're playing the same teams. I think the Steelers are better than that though because the Steelers have the best
They have a
defense
good
in the
defense.
NFL.
I agree, but yeah, the Browns have no business being 8-3.
Anyways,
I've already written down our picks without it even being announced because
you don't need to ask me.
I think it's pretty obvious where we're going with this.
You know what I think of Tennessee, and this is no shot at the Browns. The Browns, I mean, they played bad last week against Mike Glennon, but their defense has been pretty good themselves. But until someone in the NFL can prove they can stop Derrick Henry and Ryan Tannehill, which I know is really funny to say.
Well, you can stop Tannehill, but you'll never stop Henry.
You can't stop them both right now.
And if you stop Henry, it's because everyone in your secondary is stepped up and you're going to get blown up.
I'm saying Tannehill's good enough to beat the secondaries that step up.
Right.
He's proved not in Miami, but he's proven in Tennessee he is. So I'm big on Tennessee. Right now, they actually have I think Tannehill has like the 6th ranked quarterback in the NFL because of his yards per completion and like 24 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Pretty solid for a guy that wasn't making it in Miami.
Who's trying to be Marcus Mariota's back.
I think that Tannehill for me
23-4.
The hardest part about Tannehill for me to get over is what he was like in Miami. And I cannot get that out of my head. And so I still always just think of Tannehill as he's going to go back to that. He's going to go back to that. Like I keep waiting for him to go back to that. And he is the 9th best quarterback in my fantasy league, but still a top 10 quarterback.
That's fantasy. I'm just talking about
right, and I know. I'm just saying in my fantasy league to give a little perspective. Even on fantasy points, he's still 9, so he's still a top 10 quarterback. And this is a guy that couldn't even make it in Miami for a while there, and everyone thought he was never going to be a quarterback again. Very interesting story out of him. So yeah, I think it's very very obvious we like Tennessee in this matchup.
Derrick Henry, 4th round pick. Anyway,
this next one is the Raiders at the Jets. Another, I think, I want to say obvious pick, but man, the Raiders sucked last week.
Oh my God! Holy cow!
Were they just exhausted after playing Kansas City or whatever? Because I cannot figure out what team showed up to that game. I mean, it was painful. I mean, no one on that team showed up. No one on that team.
They could not show up, and they're still going to beat the Jets.
I agree, but to lose 43-6 to the Falcons.
Yeah, the Falcons are one of those teams though that could be 6-5,
but that's not even a competitive game. And this is a team that has beaten the Chiefs and then went down to the last drive of the game against the Chiefs, and then they show up, play the Falcons, and get murdered. I mean, that is just insane. I'm still going Vegas, but I'm terrible.
That's actually really bad. That's actually really bad that the Raiders got blown out because now the Raiders know they have to win, and they're going to come out with a little extra fire.
Jets.
The Jets are already garbage.
Jets.
Yeah, so I'm going Raiders.
All right, so
your team.
Once again, my team has a solid matchup to continue to make me look like a genius.
Smart,
the 1-10 Jaguars versus the 5-6 Vikings. I mean, Minnesota has made some interesting games out of some of these bad teams, but I'm still going Minnesota here. I think that they just have, I mean, they've got the pieces to be good. They just aren't consistent.
Dude, they're about to be in alone in second place potentially this week in the NFC North. I'm going Vikings. They just keep winning. I like Kirk Cousins. It's not on national television, so you know he's going to play well, and there you go.
You like all his cousins?
One of my favorite videos on the internet is him almost missing his the board on his what's it called? Gender reveal.
Oh yeah.
God, it's still a classic video. It's always been a classic. Also, his voice crack is like the most famous voice crack. I don't know if you've heard that. Where he goes,
I have not.
Oh, dude, you just it's drastic, dude. It's hold on. What? I mean, it's legitimately that drastic.
It happens to the best of us.
It's funny.
The voice crack happens to the best.
It happened to Mahomes last week pregame too in the tunnel.
It's the
he goes. Let's come out fast. And he goes, whoa, let's come out fast.
It's the jock strap, dude. It's on a little too tight. It's squeezing all the buddies.
Anyway,
they just got no room to.
Vikings by 30. That's not true.
Wowzers! Hot take. All right. Bengals, who are nothing, and the Dolphins. I think once
The Bengals,
again,
who are now literally nothing because they got no Joe.
I mean, it is.
And
They have no Joes in general. Joe Mixon, Joe Burrow. It's rough.
I've been very high on Miami before they were 7-4.
Even with, and I think even with Fitzmagic or Tua, I think that they're fine in this game either direction. I know Tua hasn't been healthy, but I definitely think that if he gets healthy, they'll play him in this game because it's an easier matchup. Give him the reps against an easier team. I wouldn't be surprised as long as he's healthy that he plays. But doesn't matter. But Fitzmagic.
Yeah, they're 8-more. Ryan Fitzmagic out of Harvard, played for the St. Louis Rams.
The teams with mirror records: the 7-4 Colts versus the 4-7 Texans.
So this is actually a more unique one because the Colts just came off a win against Green Bay and then just got mutilated by Tennessee.
Which sucks because I don't like the Colts and I picked them to beat Tennessee.
You did that just to spite me, I'm pretty sure.
But it still pisses me off that Philip Rivers
and the Colts haven't allowed more than 78 rushing yards.
Philip Rivers is still screwing me.
The Colts haven't allowed more than 78 rush yards all year.
Honestly,
and then they allowed 93 to Henry a couple weeks ago. And then that was still the most, 93. And then Derrick Henry rocked like 170 on that.
That's what's outrageous is that Philip Rivers has spent his entire life screwing his wife and making kids, and his entire NFL career screwing football teams. So,
having decent stats while screwing football.
He was pretty bad last year for the Chargers, but I get what you're saying.
That was like his first really bad year, though.
But he's
been a good quarterback that never won a big game.
Moral of the story, if you get nothing else from the Last Inning Touchdown podcast, it is that Philip Rivers screws like crazy. That's the note you need to know from the Last Inning Touchdown.
Okay.
This is an interesting one. The 4-7 Lions at the 5-6 Bears.
Did we pick? We didn't even pick the games.
Yeah, I just assumed we were both going Colts here.
So the Texans are 4-3 in their last 7 after firing their head coach. And the Texans right now have a guy who's going, if the season ended right now, Deshaun Watson's going to finish 3rd in the NFL MVP on a 4-7 football team. And that is impressive. 25 touchdowns, 4 picks. How many 24 touchdowns, 5 picks.
Deshaun Watson is a stud. Will Fuller got suspended for PEDs.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Will Fuller really matter?
He does.
I know he does.
Will Fuller is his chuck. Now Brandon Cooks can slot into that role, into the
Brandon
straight
Cooks
down the field.
Been good since he was in.
Brandon Cooks is having a decent year, I'm pretty sure.
Is he? Nice.
More recently, since the offensive coordinator change or the coaching change.
That man gets first-round draft picks traded for him. Yeah, I'm gonna go Colts, but I wanted to bring it up.
Speaking of first-round draft picks, Tavon Austin was signed by Green Bay.
Don't even bring that
up. So that's an interesting one. I kind of forgot he even existed.
I didn't. He's been a mediocre punt returner that is known as a good punt returner because his first 3 steps are always backwards to give him more time to read the field, just for him to go 35 yards to the right and go for -1 yards.
He's like those people in Madden that used to hand it off to their running back and then just keep running away from you, and the next thing you know, you gain no yards, but the play went on for like ever.
That's what he does. He's so fast that he just runs side to side, but this isn't the NFL in the 1980s where there's just going to be lanes all the time. That guys cover their lanes, okay? So he won't matter to the Packers at all. I'm not saying you said that, but he won't even make.
No, I just thought it was interesting because I forgot he existed. So all right, so back to the Lions at Bears. I think this is an interesting one because I really don't feel confident in either one of these teams.
This is big for me.
Because he's going Detroit because he has to.
Because I'm all aboard.
I am
the
all
Detroit
above
uptick and the Bears downtick. The Detroit uptick has gone 1-3 for me since I said that. Actually, I think they're 1-4 since I said they were going to be good. And the Bears are 0-5, and I picked them to lose all 5 games.
So this is tough for you.
So I'm going Lions.
Ugh.
Because I have to.
Here's the deal.
I have to.
Here's the deal.
And I have no. And the only reason the Lions didn't win the game the first time, they played each other opening weekend, and Matthew Stafford hit an uncovered DeAndre Swift in the end zone on 4th down with like 18 seconds left. And the ball went right through his hands, hit Swift right in the chest, and went straight down to the turf. And they lost a football game on an uncovered drop pass. And that's the only reason the Bears aren't 4-7. And they were 5-1. So I'm gonna go Lions, even though it's in Soldier Field, and I love Mitch Trubisky, but I'm going Lions if I have to.
Okay, first of all, no one should love Mitchell Trubisky. And second of
UNC.
all, I don't know, man. I think that
you ready for another quarterback out of UNC?
This is really, really tough because I don't like either one of these teams. DeAndre Swift, I'm not even sure is playing.
I don't believe he is. I think he's out for the year. But
I think he's at least hurt for this game. Questionable.
Oh, he's questionable?
I didn't look that up. I just said it. I do think he's questionable for the year though. Or for this game. I mean, first of all, right now we have all the same picks. And since I don't know which way I'm going to go, I 147% agree with you that the Bears suck and they're on a downtick. But
these are two garbage football teams.
I'm going Bears in this one, though. We got to have some variation.
And there's really no reason not to have variation on this game. Because neither one of us have any faith.
I'm just not a buyer. I don't know. I'm not a buyer in any of this. I'm just going Bears for the sake of we have a different pick.
I agree.
That's the full, absolute, analytical, in-depth analysis of this game. Is I am going Bears because you picked Detroit.
Remember when I went the Jets because Justin Herbert cut his hair?
Yeah, remember when you were wrong.
Remember I was wrong about the temp. Remember I was wrong last week too. What the temperature in Boston was? What's the temperature in Boston? Kyler Murray's playing there, right? What's the temperature? Oh, it's going to be warm. I'm going Arizona.
Yeah, Kyler Murray is for sure not healthy. He looked awful in that game.
That's also what Bill Belichick does to young guys.
Well, Kyler Murray, the week before, I believe, hurt his shoulder, but continued to play. And then he looked bad in this game. So I think there's something bugging him. Now, that doesn't mean it's going to carry over into this week, but anyways, he didn't look right.
So last noon game, right?
Last noon game, but for some reason, NFL.com has a space between this game and the previous noon game instead of in between the next. But anyways, the Saints at the Falcons. 9-2 Saints versus the 4-7 Falcons. You have had a terrible streak of picking against the Saints, but the Falcons have had a streak of random wins that doesn't make it a streak at all. But they do randomly show up at times. And I mean, last week, the Saints looked kind of rough. So you really, I mean, you could, don't get me wrong. They won 31-3, which on the scoreboard at the end of the game seems like a blowout. First quarter 0-0, third quarter 7-3, fourth quarter 7-0. They scored 17 of their points in the second quarter. The rest of the game, they played right with the Broncos as being not great. So, well, maybe the effort wasn't there.
They threw for 70-something yards.
So that's what I'm saying. So is it possible here that maybe the Falcons get the upset? Just
I don't care how possible it is. I'm choosing the Saints.
I'm trying to convince you to not pick the Saints because I like the fact that the Saints keep beating you.
In our 5 weeks of doing this total, so this is our 5th podcast, but our 6th week of doing an NFL Pickem. The Saints had a bye, and they're 4-0. I have picked the Saints to lose. I predicted the Saints to go 1-3. They don't even have 3 losses all year, but for some reason I keep picking them to lose. I'm going Saints until I die. Okay? Saints.
It's a long time. Their team could be bad by then.
Yeah. Or COVID takes me out.
So I've said all this stuff about the Falcons. And I'm a little bit. I think I've almost sold myself on this Falcons idea, but Julio is questionable. I'm going Saints. Not.
They have the number one defense in the NFL.
Yeah, I think that's what they're going to win games with.
They have a terrible quarterback who they'll bench at halftime if they're losing and go with Jameis.
So these are a tale of two cities. I don't know. I just wanted to say that. But complete opposite teams here. The Giants have nothing working on offense and have a decent defense. And the Seahawks have a good offense and no defense.
Their defense has played well.
It played well for me this week in fantasy. I picked them up. It was risky, but I did it.
Their last 3 weeks, the Seahawks have had a pretty good run. And last week, their stats were even broken because Philly decided to throw for 70 yards when the game was pretty much over, depending on an onside kick. Giants won 3 in a row. FYI.
So,
Daniel,
how are you feeling here?
Duke's Daniel Jones is not playing.
Who's playing quarterback for him?
Colt McCoy.
Ooh. This is now an interesting game.
I think it's way less interesting. I'm going.
Yeah, no, it's not interesting at all. I just kind of said that.
I was gonna say, Colt McCoy graduated college in like 2003. Yeah, I swear to God.
Colt McCoy is not interesting at all. And
he actually played well for the Washington football team. The last time that he actually played in the NFL.
The Washington Red Markers.
Yeah, and the Giants have a really good defense, but and they won 3 in a row. But I think Seattle's just too much.
This is absolutely the most boring pick'em so far. We have one differentiation, and it was solely picked because of differentiation. So far, I'm also going.
Neither of us knew who to pick in that game anyway. So regardless, we should have just picked different.
Yeah, so I'm going Seattle here.
We have to. I mean, there's just too many one-sided games, dude.
All right, so
there's only one other game we could have really picked.
This is an interesting game.
Yeah.
The Rams at the Cardinals. So the Cardinals didn't look very good this last week. The Rams.
And Jared Goff didn't look very good.
Jared Goff drafted right before Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Man, did they miss out. So Rams at Cardinals. This is a tough one because Kyler Murray, like I said, did not look healthy last week. I'm interested.
You got to remember that the really good Arizona Cardinals are a Hail Mary away from being 5-6. Because you got to remember they beat the Bills on a DeAndre Hopkins Hail Mary catch. So this Cardinals team isn't really that good.
I tell you that usually my deciding factors are quarterbacks and defenses. I think that the Cardinals win at quarterback if Kyler's healthy, but I think the Rams defense is just too good to say that Kyler Murray is the difference maker here. So I'm going to go Rams.
This is going to be once again annoying. I'm going Rams as well because I'm thinking Jared Goff is going to have...
you think he's going to go Jared Goff?
His coach... Exactly. His coach called him out, which Sean McVay has proven he's never been shy to do. He has never been shy to, take blame. Never been shy to place blame. He has always been okay to say, this is definitely Jared's fault. He played bad. And Jared Goff came out today and said, I'm a big boy. I can handle the fact that I had 3 turnovers last week and cost us a football game. It's true. And I think Jared Goff's going to play well, and I think their defense is too much. I'm going Rams.
Okay, here's another game that I could see us going either way. Patriots at Chargers.
Well, I know who you're going.
Do you? Do you, though?
No, I don't know. But
all right, so Patriots at Chargers.
You got the best rookie quarterback in the NFL.
Against
ever
not great Patriots team. But still 5-6.
The worst Patriots team since pre-Brady. Even if they went out, I don't think Brady ever won 10 games. I think he always won more than that.
I don't know, man. This is actually kind of a tough one because the Patriots have owned the Chargers for quite some time.
That was Philip Rivers.
The Bill Belichick is known for playing well against rookie quarterbacks.
Yes.
But Justin Herbert could be the exception because he's a god.
Because he's the best rookie quarterback.
Or does the haircut come back to bite him this week?
That's too late for the haircut to bite him. I think it's just going to be Bill Belichick to bite him. And I'm going to go with the New England Patriots, who are going to go 6-6 and try to make a run at this thing. Are you going to pick the Patriots?
I really think the Patriots win this game. I do.
The Chargers are 3-8, and they have the 11th ranked defense and the 3rd ranked offense.
Yeah, but I think I'm going to go Chargers just to separate us here. I think I'm going to bank on my own team here to pull out a game I don't think they'll win for the sake of...
Yeah, are you still a Chargers fan?
I am a Chargers fan, where I have been a Chargers fan for a long time, but I really don't follow them anymore-ish. I mostly just follow fantasy football. I've kind of separated myself from the fandom of football to be better at fantasy football. I try to not fall in love as a fan with players so I can look at them as fantasy football players. I'm pretty heartless. All right, the 3-7-1 Eagles at the 8-3 Packers with Tavon Austin.
This is easy. I'm going with Tavon Austin. Right? I'm going with Tavon Austin in the Green Bay.
I'm going to have to unfortunately agree with you because the Eagles suck. Another fantastic primetime NFL game this year.
Also, to go back to the MVP, they have Aaron Rodgers right now second in the MVP race.
Right after Justin Herbert.
Exactly.
But
they actually have Herbert ranked 9th, I think.
I feel like that's underrating him, let's be honest.
8th. Well, they have Josh Allen at 7.
The only reason he's not is because his team's 3-8. If the Chargers,
Deshaun's 3rd and he's 4-7.
Yeah, but Deshaun is established and he's Deshaun. If the Chargers were 8-3 right now, we'd be talking about how Justin Herbert's a god.
Well, everyone already does,
and he'd be an MVP.
And his yards per attempt. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's an absolute stud quarterback, especially for a rookie. But when you just look at his stats compared to all these other guys, they're just worse.
I don't care. Anyways. All right, the primetime game. Once again, the NFL...
guy who's going to win the MVP.
The NFL has 4 primetime games this week. Every single one of them, trash. Last week, primetime games. The Thanksgiving
One of these games isn't trash. I think 2 of these games aren't trash.
All of them are trash.
You're trash.
All right, so Sunday night, Broncos at Chiefs.
Trash. Going Chiefs.
Also going Chiefs. Monday at 4, the Washington French Fries versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. Personally, I think trash. I'm going Pittsburgh.
I'm going Washington.
No.
I got Washington winning their division. Pittsburgh's going to lose it sometime. And I think Washington, especially now that they have a quarterback who's not turning the ball over at rates with Alex Smith. I'm not saying Alex Smith is this freak or he's going to do anything special, but I think that both these defenses are very good. I think it's going to be low scoring. And I truly think that Washington is going to prove that they are better than their 4-7 record. They're well coached. Like I said, they just don't turn the ball over anymore. This is a better team. They've won 2 in a row. The only reason I'm not any more confident is because it's on the road. If they were in Washington, I'd feel a lot more comfortable. Also, do they have to wear masks during this game? Because doesn't Philadelphia now have or Pennsylvania, don't they now have a mask requirement?
Thanks for the free point.
Football players?
Thanks for the free point.
That's fine, but...
That's all I want to say is thanks for the free point. I have no idea. I don't have any idea.
We were literally... Also, there's 3 games that we have different now.
Wow, that is a trash pick. Thanks a lot, Logan. I will take the free win.
The 7-15.
The 7-15 Monday night game. Bills at 49ers, but not actually at the 49ers because the 49ers can't play at home because COVID. So once again, I think a trash game. Bills win this.
I don't think it's a trash game. I think San Francisco is way better than people give them credit for. Even still, no, I like Josh Allen.
Oh, you're going Bills. I already decided. Wait, what?
That's literally what I just said. But,
dang it.
The Niners are a team, and they just beat the Rams. They're 2-0 against the Rams.
The 49ers and Rams, when they play each other, never counts.
But look at this schedule that they just played.
They're garbage.
They played Seattle, Green Bay, New Orleans, and LA, the Rams, in 4 straight weeks.
49ers are garbage. 49ers
That's
are garbage.
Not true. You do realize this team was 8 minutes away from a Super Bowl?
49ers are garbage.
God, you're such an idiot.
49ers are garbage.
If anyone here is a fan of the San Francisco 49ers, I would request never turn this podcast on again, because clearly there's a guy who just
or better yet, if you're a 49ers fan, keep tuning into this podcast and comment all over it about how you love them, and then make fun of me if they win this game. They're not going to, though, and they're garbage.
They're going to win the game. I'm going Bills, though. I mean, they're not going to win the game, but I'm going.
All right. And then the Tuesday night game, garbage. Cowboys at Ravens.
This is garbage, because
although the Ravens are garbage.
Exactly. Apparently the Ravens are way worse than I thought. Is Trace McSorley starting this game?
If I told you that I typed NYB for the Buffalo Bills, would you believe me? I told you my notes when I'm doing this are very quick, and I realized they're not a New York technical team. Anyways. What are you blabbering about?
Is Trace McSorley starting this game?
I've heard rumors.
Lamar Jackson?
I have heard that the Ravens coach is not willing to commit to Lamar Jackson for this game. This is the same coach who's been refusing to commit to J.K. Dobbins all year long, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is up in the air for a while.
Because Trace McSorley only played only played the last 4 minutes, and he had 8 less yards than Robert Griffin III.
RG knee.
Exactly.
Regardless, a trash game.
Cowboys suck.
They do.
I'm gonna go Baltimore, but I could see the Cowboys winning this game.
I wouldn't be surprised, but I just don't have any faith in the Cowboys. So I'm also going Baltimore.
I'd be going Cowboys. But
I would tend to agree with you, but yeah, I don't know. Trash.
NFL right now is giving Pittsburgh a 55% chance to beat the Washington football team, which is the 4th lowest prediction this week. FYI.
Fantastic. As long as Antonio Gibson pops off, that's all I care about. Fantasy.
NFL Week 13 picks. I guess this is a popular upset. It's literally titled on NFL.com, NFL Week 13 picks, undefeated no more, Washington stuns Steelers.
Stuns. It's not really a stun if everyone's expecting it. I don't know, though. I don't see it. I'm going Pittsburgh on that one. So,
but you know that I've been pretty high on Washington all year.
Yeah, you're high on something, all right.
Terry McLaurin, Antonio Gibson. Fight me, dude. I'm pretty sure you got Washington wrong last week.
I'm pretty sure I have more wins than you.
That's true, but I also didn't pick 15 favorites last week.
I didn't know who the favorites were because Bing doesn't tell me.
Oh my God. This man used Bing and chose 16 favorites.
I have used Bing and chose 50 correct games since we started this.
And I've chosen 45.
46, so.
Oh, nice.
Even better. So there's that. That's football. How you feeling? Any last words for football?
I got one last quote. My only NFL note.
My last quote. 49ers are trash.
Was a tweet I saw that said, it was from a Bears fan when watching the Eagles game on national television. Mitch Trubisky wishes announcers blamed his teammates as easily as the announcers blamed Carson Wentz's teammates. I thought that was a funny quote because they do blame, no matter how bad Carson Wentz is, the live announcers in game will eat Carson Wentz's dick and never blame anything on him. But Brian Greasy refused to do that live on air. I don't know if you watched the game, but he kind of ripped Carson Wentz over and over all night, and I liked it. And it was actually educational, kind of actually learning why a quarterback throws a certain ball a certain way. So it was actually a very good game to listen to. when it came to, not saying that Brian Griese's a stud, but he still can understand the game and might not have been able to play it as perfectly as others. And it was a really cool conversation about how quickly to get a ball somewhere, when to throw jump balls, when to throw more line drive passes, and just stuff like that Wentz was doing very poorly at and during the game. And I thought that was and kind of why he was saying the Seahawks team can't, stop passing all year, but Carson Wentz is making them look like the 2014 Seattle Seahawks. So it was actually quite educational. I liked it. Mitch Trubisky is a god. Go Tar Heels.
Okay. Anyways,
go Tar Heels.
Oh, you're all good. I think on that note, Mitchell Trubisky gets a lot of trouble because of the circumstances in which he was drafted.
And the fact that the other three guys that went in the first round are all studs.
I mean, that's what's unfortunate for him.
And he went first.
Even though, like the 49ers, he's garbage. Anyways, it is what it is. On to Overwatch League. Here on the Last Inning Touchdown podcast, we are hitting up the Overwatch League now. So, some interesting signings that have happened in the last few days. This is not all of them. This is just the ones that were somewhat interesting. DM has re-signed with the Dragons. Philly has officially re-signed Poco, EQO, Funny Astro, Alarm, and Carpe. So they're bringing back most of that team. The Shock steal Nero from the Outlaws. So at the last minute, apparently the Shock came out. I saw Nero tweeted the coach from the Shock said something along the lines of, "I'm going to make you great. I can make you fantastic."
Crusty, because he's a god.
Yes, he said, "I'm going to make you a god," basically. So he went there. And they also signed Glister, who was to me, his name showed up a lot more during season 1 in my mind, but he's a very solid DPS as well. I think it'll be interesting.
The Shock also signed who?
Oh, they re-signed Super as well.
They re-signed everybody. Super, Smurf, Choi, Violet, Striker, and then they signed Nero and FD God.
Yes.
And
yeah, I forgot that some of those are probably on the podcast that never made it. So
I don't think any of them were.
FD God, I definitely talked about.
Okay, but because I would say most of that didn't happen until after when they wanted to announce them all.
And the other thing is, though,
Super.
I have been announcing some of this stuff before it was officially announced. My Twitter resources have had the rumors, so I've kind of been saying some of these before they became official.
And just like you said, the Outlaws.
The other interesting one, speaking of Outlaws, the Titans signed Linkser, the former Outlaw.
So the Outlaws did not get Nero, and they were supposed to get Nero. They also apparently, so this is what I wrote in my note. The Outlaws are apparently a bridesmaid and never a bride. They finished second to Shu, Nero, and Moth. So they, instead of getting 3 absolutely game-changing guys, when they did get a couple game-changing DPS guys, they missed out on a guy like Nero and Moth. And there was actually on the one of the podcasts for the Overwatch, the only podcast I listen to is called the Plat Chat, which is kind of the only Overwatch podcast that I know that most people listen to. They did not like Nero to the Shock. They didn't like it.
Interesting.
They were all 4 of the guys were big against it because Moth is Mr. Consistency, right? He doesn't make mistakes. It's kind of what Moth is. Not saying he's the best player in the game, but he doesn't have stupid deaths. He's really smart and not going for this 10% chance of making it work play, and just always does the right thing. Nero is a guy who will go and try to do things like that and make these mistakes. He's like, I got a 10% chance of this working. Let me go for it. And then all of a sudden you're down someone in the fight. And they said that, and that's kind of what Krusty, I guess, is telling him, that I can make you into a god because maybe he has all the fundamentals, but his, decision making is not that good. So maybe Krusty will fix that, but that's what they were worried about, in the fact that he tends to make dumber plays because he decides to go for it all and be the hero. And yes, it can work. And all of a sudden you can win in a team fight strictly because he got some pick or something. But they weren't the biggest fan because they went from having Mr. Perfect and Moth to spending a probably similar amount of money on a guy who's risky.
I think it's interesting. I think I'm trying to find it really quickly. I can't. But it was either Glister or Nero. Someone had tweeted something along the lines of that they think the Shock could make one of those two into the next striker, where they take a guy that was pretty solid and they turn him into a next level god. And so that would be interesting to see if they are the Cleveland Indians pitching coach of Overwatch League. They take these guys and turn them into gods. But it is interesting. So I saw it was floating around YouTube, and there's a group. I terribly apologize. I didn't write down the name of the YouTube channel. It's not somebody I watch. I just happened to see it and I was scrolling, and they titled their video "The Great Tank Debate." There's several videos about the great whatever debate, every position. It is it is SVB. So shout out SVB. I'm sorry I didn't actually watch your video, but I saw the title of it, "The Great Tank Debate," and it got me thinking. So basically the video is about so I turned it on for half a second to figure out what they were talking about, but I didn't actually watch it. Basically each person got 2 tanks and they had to discuss whether or not they deserve a buff, a nerf, or if they were good as is. But it got me thinking of our own great tank debate, great DPS debate, and great support debate in a different fashion. And my thought was, for the great tank debate, what tank duo would you think would produce the most interesting Overwatch League content next year? So in a little different note, thinking about the great team play, the great, top tier gameplay of Overwatch League, what 2 tanks do you think would create the greatest gameplay for Overwatch League next? I know I kind of hit you with this. You were not prepared for this question at all. So I
mean, the obvious is, so you're talking about for content or wins?
I'm saying for the most entertaining to watch. If I am watching Overwatch League. Okay, those are people. I'm thinking heroes. What hero. 2 heroes would you like?
Okay, so that was my confusion.
Yeah, sorry. What 2 tank heroes do you think would make for the best meta next season in Overwatch League as far as what to watch? It's an interesting thought.
So the 2 tanks that I enjoy that are almost never together right now, because one of them is so just never used. But I could watch Reinhardt's all day, dude. Right. I love watching Reinhardt. This is something that you're going to disagree with, because I know he's your favorite character in the game. I'm pretty sure he's your favorite character in Winston. I'm not the biggest fan of watching him. I love playing him, but I'm not the biggest fan of watching him in the league. I could watch Reinhardt's all day, dude. Those guys, watching people hit shatters and whiff shatters, are my favorite ults to watch, either hit or whiff, because it's funny or awesome. It's funny when someone just gets flexed and they get their shatter blocked, and then they get shattered themselves. It's awesome. So I'm gonna go Reinhardt. Oh God, I don't know. Do you have an opinion? Let me think about this. You probably have a better opinion because you knew the question.
So I'm going to be honest with you. 99% of the time before these podcasts, I don't actually think about any of the things I'm going to say. I just come up with topics. So I like to be a little bit more. I am not a good person at rehearsing anything I'm going to say. I'm not good with notes and stuff. So I'm much more of a on the spot. think through it as I talk kind of person. But I definitely actually 100% agree with you that I think Reinhardt as the main tank is the most interesting way that Overwatch League is played.
That's a man's character.
I do like Dive, but Dive when you're watching Overwatch League gets really hectic and it's really hard to watch at times. Because
only
they're
the
all
top
over the play.
Understanding people are going to understand what's happening all the time.
And so I definitely
sometimes I do understand that, and sometimes I'm like, man, this is a lot.
I personally love Overwatch when it's in a very brawly type stage, but I don't like it if May is in the brawl stage, which is what's always tough because if Reinhardt shows up, May tends to follow. But I definitely think Reinhardt as a tank in general is just fun to watch. I mean, like you said, those huge shatters are awesome. Reinhardt just has that ability to turn a fight. I mean, a good Reinhardt, I mean, you watch Super gets going and his team follows right behind him when he's playing.
King's Row Super is the most fun to watch, dude. Watching King's Row Super. Because they still, even when Ryan hasn't been meta in like 15 months, would run Super's Ryan on King's Row because they trust it and they know how good they are on that map with him playing Ryan.
And so then the question, I guess, that we're trying to decide is then if we both agree that Ryan is the most interesting tank, main tank, who is following him then as his off tank, second tank?
My favorite. So I don't think these two would be the best together, even though they probably could be pretty baller together, is Sigma. Because Sigma just has this damage output, plus they got the hands, of being able to eat damage, plus the shield that they can throw around. Sigma's probably has like arguably the best kit in the game. Their ult it's pretty devastating as well, but you can't get stunned out of it. I'm impressed. That was my first cough. If we would have done this yesterday, I would have coughed the entire time.
Put your masks on.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, Ryan Zarya is fun when you think of Super Sinatra, or really does any of those duos.
I think in Overwatch League 2, Zarya is a character that's interesting because the top tier Zarya is a rare breed. And the guys that are really good at building charge and building ult are just way better than anybody else at Zarya. And so Zarya is definitely a cool person to pair with Reinhardt in this situation. But do I think that that's the most interesting Overwatch League meta? I'm not 100% sure. I do love the team play that comes with Zarya's ult, but I do wonder with in my opinion, what seems like the lack thereof of top god tier Zaryas, would you just create the teams that do have those couple good Zaryas are going to be way better than everyone else, which would produce not the most interesting. That's where I'm a little torn. I do kind of like your Sigma pick though, because Sigma is kind of a cool, can kind of do one on his own. Honestly though, I mean, after watching this last little bit, I'm not 100% against Overwatch League Roadhogs. I think they're kind of fun to watch.
I really don't like the hooks, and which is surprising me that you're okay with Roadhogs because you don't like players like Widow, guys, people that can just get instant picks.
Okay, that'll be interesting.
We talked about this before, and the fact that you like a lot of team play in Overwatch and less individual insta kills, where people like Hanzo and Widow can do that. And Roadhog's another one that's in that character, right? Where you get a hook and you insta-kill a DPS, and that DPS had no chance the second they were hooked. So that was surprising to me to hear.
I think I had a lot of fun watching the playoffs. And so I think the Roadhog was a big part of that. So I think that some of that's playing into that.
So here's weird. So I don't know, because I guess I'm going to have to go with Ryan Zarya because I don't want to put a double shield. To answer the question officially, I'm going to go Ryan Zarya because I don't want to put a double shield meta out there in Ryan Sigma. I do like Ryan Sigma a lot. I obviously just love D.Va. Jesus Christ, I hate D.Va. I don't like watching Wrecking Ball. Wrecking Ball is incredibly annoying if you're trying to be like an Ash or something on the outside and you're at the low ranks of Overwatch like I am because I suck. Dive can be stressful with Winston Diva, like you said to the casual viewer. Orisa is just a really slow meta. So I'm going to go with a single shield Rhine Zarya. That's what I'm going to go with to answer the question.
Fair enough. I'm going to agree with you. I think at the end of the day, I'm going to agree with you for a lot of the same reasons. And Rhine Zarya is just a nice pairing in general.
She can lift more than me.
So this is going to be the great DPS debate. So for who I think is the most interesting DPS duo in Overwatch League is going to surprise you then. Because Widow is probably my number one pick for Overwatch League.
You like to watch it?
I love watching Overwatch League Widow. I hate playing against people that can one pick. I hate playing against people that can kill me in one shot. Watching Overwatch League, though, watching somebody like Carpe just pop off on Widow is nuts. It is so exciting when, there's the play where, Philly's about to lose and all of a sudden Carpe switches to Widow and Widow's not even meta. And we just starts popping off on the other team, swinging around all over the place. That is what is exciting about watching it. Widow, and then I don't know in what world this would become the meta, but a Widow Genji meta would be sick in Overwatch League. You would have so many.
I was say Widow Sombra.
No, my two options would have been Widow Tracer or Widow Genji. But Widow Genji in Overwatch League, Widow and Genji, when in Overwatch League, are two of the most exciting players to watch pop off. To watch them go nuts at that level is insane. I don't know if it's even possible to have a Rhine Zarya Widow Genji meta, but I'm all for it. I'm all for it. See how it goes. So I would pick Widow Genji at DPS.
Okay.
At Overwatch League level. I would hate that if I was playing ranked as meta, but that's what I want in Overwatch League.
So what if I said something like a Doom Tracer? It just had two guys. So you had a Rhine Zarya, and then you just had Doom Tracer just flying around.
I think by picking Doom, you have like a good 75% of the Overwatch community about to punch you in the face.
I know. I don't know why everyone hates on Doom so much, because I think he just ruins the high ranks, because we never see him ever.
God tier Dooms, though, dominate games.
Yeah. But you still, you haven't seen him in Overwatch in a year.
I have not. It's been a while.
I don't like watching Sombra. Tracer's kind of fun. I don't like watching Pharah. Reaper's kind of fun.
The problem with Reaper is
McCree's always cool.
He is. McCree's got that pop-off potential that I really like.
So maybe like the McCree Tracer.
Okay, I could get down with that. I'm down with that one as well.
That's what about a May Bash?
Love it.
Yeah, I guess I'll go McCree Tracer. I personally like Doom because I'm garbage at characters like that. I'm terrible with Genji and Doom. Because I'm just terrible at the game. But and I'm saying that in a way that I can play other characters and be okay in the DPS ranks. You give me a McCree or a soldier or a Hanzo.
The best way to explain
I'll survive, but
the best way to explain our Overwatch ability is 75% of the time, we are the classic example of a person who plays the game and we meddle in just about everything, but we lose a bunch because we don't actually really play Overwatch correctly. And it's not that we're going out of our way playing like a bud, but like we just don't understand what it truly means to play Overwatch at a high level. So it's like we can produce in the medals category in almost every game, but it's not enough to carry a team because we don't play the fundamentals of Overwatch well enough to carry a team.
I'm also just not that good with a mouse and keyboard.
True.
I've been playing mouse and keyboard longer than I've been playing with a controller at this point, like consistently. And I'm still way better at controller games the second I pick them up. Like I won't play Call of Duty with a controller for, a literal full year. And after like 30 minutes, I'm in like a top like 10% of like Call of Duty players on controller because Call of Duty players just suck ass. For some reason, even though I take a year off and I can walk in.
And that's what's interesting. And this is
on CS or Overwatch or Valorant or anything on a mouse and keyboard. I take a week off and I'm just terrible at the game.
I'm ready to make the hot take of the week where I'm going to call out 90% of the competitive Call of Duty scene. Most of you suck. It's simple as that.
I'm not even talking about competitive because
I'm talking about Overwatch, I'm not talking about like pro level. I'm talking about your casual, I guess not casual, but your kids that are on Twitter ranting and raving about how good they are. Myself and Logan here showed up to a 2v2 tournament in person against other kids in the St. Louis area. Neither one of us took the game seriously. Neither one of us had played very much. And there was hardly anybody there that could even hang with us. I mean, that's the thing is, I haven't taken a Call of Duty seriously since Modern Warfare 2. And by seriously, I mean I haven't played very many hours at all in Call of Duty since Modern Warfare 2. And I can show up to a 4v4 LAN that's variant and still go positive against kids that are trying to compete to go pro at the time. These kids are thinking they're going to go to majors and be pro gamers. And it's like, I'm going positive and I didn't play the game for 2 weeks before the event. I had a pickup team of kids that weren't that great. And I can still hold my own against 75% of the kids in the tournament. And it's like, you're just not that good then. You should be killing me. If you are doing nothing but preparing for events in a game and you still can't murder somebody that doesn't play it seriously, you're just not that good. And we are just not that good at computer. It's all that is.
We're also never that good. And what makes that more embarrassing, and like not to roast, is like I'm better with the controller. Like I said, I'm way better with the controller than I ever was with the mouse and keyboard. But I was never that good to where and either were you, in my opinion, where either of us should be able to do that.
No, not at all. And that was what it was embarrassing when I went to Kansas City. You didn't go to Kansas City, but I went to Kansas City, and I went to Kansas City and played.
Separated themselves.
The top couple teams separated themselves. My team got double first rounded. We were god awful, but every single game I was in there competing. And I literally didn't play for 2 weeks before we showed up. My team was thrown together last minute. That shouldn't happen if you're showing up to a tournament.
Nope.
Any game.
All right. So I'm going with Creed Tracer. You went Widow Genji.
What an interesting meta.
Let's get this last question answered. The double support.
This great support debate.
I'm going to go... I have a special place in my heart for Anna.
Okay. I like Anna.
Anna, and then it's between 3, but I'm going to take away Baptiste, so I'm going to narrow it down to 2. So it's going to be Anna, and then my favorite, and then this has been your most recent favorite support, but the support that I played right off the rip of the game all the time. I'll go with Anna Zenyatta.
Oh. No, I like that. I like that meta. So actually, I happened to see a video. I didn't watch it. That said that they believe the current game meta is Anna Zenyatta because the current game meta is big play support. Is when your supports create the big plays on your team. I don't have a problem with that at all. And I think it works. If I were truthfully picking the characters I like the most, I would probably give you a Lucio and... I mean, I could give you Lucio Zen as my favorites to play, but I think the other thing is Lucio pairs nicely with our Reinhardt meta that we made. Lucio is big on that. But as far as interesting
Moira kind of
content,
fares well with that too.
interesting content, I think I'm going to have to agree with you that Zenyatta Ana play. Because Ana, yes, is a main healer, but can still, the sleep darts can be nasty.
Dude,
and Zenyatta at the top level just is awesome to watch. I mean,
Violet Zenyatta, Super said this when they won the title, that they played the meta wrong. He said the meta, when they won the title, they won with Zen and Mercy / Lucio.
Lamborghini Mercy.
Moth. So Moth played Mercy Lucio and Violet played Zen. And Super stated that they played the meta wrong and people should not copy what they did because the only reason they won is because Violet on Zen was so much... Super thinks Violet's the best player in the world. And he said Violet on Zen... The only team that could have won with that strategy was them because Violet's the best Zenyatta in the world. Because he thinks that the other teams played it right and that Ana Mercy / Ana Lucio was the move. And I just love watching Ana. Like, high-level Ana's hitting sleeps and stuff are just really fun to watch. Cool nades are fun to watch.
Ana looks good with my Genji pick, too.
She's really kitted. Yeah, that's true. She's kitted really well. And by really well, I mean really OP. A lot of the new characters, for people who haven't really thought of it, have just overpowered kits. Things like Signa and Ana and Doom. Moira's another one. Brigitte, I'm pretty sure, wasn't original with the game. Was over-kitted. So when you just look at that, the new characters tend to have good kits. So I don't know. Ana Zen is cool. Ana Zen's.
Yeah, I actually agree.
I'm very happy with my Rein, Zarya, Ana Zen.
So my meta is Rein, Zarya,
Widow Genji, your dream scenario.
Widow Genji, and Ana Zen. There's gonna be some massive pop-offs there. Somebody's gonna pop off in my meta. Yeah. Somebody. Yeah. I don't know who, but somebody.
It's gonna be Violet, Sparkle, EQO.
I actually really liked back when Overwatch was Tracer Genji meta. Tracer Genji meta was a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah, that was really fun watching, what was it called? The Summer Showdown, when you had Paris upsetting everybody.
A lot of Season 1 was Tracer Genji.
And then you also had the Genji meta with the Summer Showdown this year when Sparkle became of age and Genji was also the meta, which was like, considering convenient. Sparkle was, it was really convenient for them. And then the Shock didn't have a friggin' Genji, so they didn't know what to do.
I love Super Genji. It was so
he
fun.
played really well, surprisingly, for the first couple times, and then he really didn't play that well. But the person who should have been Genji and wound up becoming their Genji was always and should have always been Rascal. And then they got that figured out later, and then the Genji meta ended.
Right.
And then it went back to being the most dominant team in the world.
Yeah.
But they got their asses kicked by Paris and Philly during that time frame.
I feel that.
Most frustrating way to die. Last question before we close this podcast.
Most frustrating way to die is
in Overwatch.
Not even a little bit close. Not even a little bit close. I am never, ever, 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 ever more pissed off than being frozen by May.
I never. Frozen by May is going to be my number 2. My most frustrating is when I'm a DPS player and I hit a Junkrat trap.
That, to me, is the exact same thing. The only difference is May does it all the time because it's her damn gun, and Junkrat only gets one every now and then.
Oh my god! But there's nothing more frustrating than
you're
like,
stuck.
Oh my god, away,
you're just stuck. Both times you're just stuck, and it sucks.
Oh god!
Very, very frustrating.
I love Junkrat too. I've always loved.
I do,
Junk,
and I love his king skin, goated.
Oh god, that skin is beautiful.
But with that. Great podcast.
We're probably at like hour 45.
I have no idea because I broke it up into segments this time. But great podcast. All of you, like, subscribe on YouTube. Make sure you find us on Spotify, Google Play Podcasts, wherever else we are, Anchor.fm. We did change the Twitter handle, so it's actually not correct at the bottom of the screen. I totally just remembered that. I removed the pod. So here's the little story before we end here. I made a Twitter account called Last Inning TD, which I liked. It was easy. It was simple. And I thought I was going to be clever. And when it said my birth date, I chose the date that we decided to make the podcast. Turns out, as soon as I did that, it banned my account for not being 13 years old.
Yep.
And so then when I tried to change my birth date, it wouldn't let me in because I was locked out because I was under 13. And so I had to make a new Twitter, but I couldn't use that handle because it was still attached to the banned Twitter. So now the Twitter on this screen is incorrect. It is just Last Inning TD on Twitter, Last Inning Touchdown on YouTube, on Spotify, on Anchor.fm. We will see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.